The T-Wolves get some revenge on the Cleveland Cavs tonight, 104-91. I got the expert. Guess who? It's Sam Ekstrom. He's going to help us break it all down. It's all coming up next on the Locked On Wolves POSTCAST.
You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up? What's up? Back in the lab, back at it. Another T-Wolves POSTCAST episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. You got myself, Luke Inman, at Luke_Spinman. See that? That's the man, Sam Ekstrom. He's on X, at Sam Ekstrom. And Sam, before we jump into all the action, quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, man. Wolves coming into this one, still a bag full of mixed emotions, I think. A lot of people were saying, hey, that was a massive moral victory and that tough, but, kind of gritty loss versus the Denver Nuggets Tuesday night. More on that a little bit later. Nonetheless, they come into tonight off 2 nights of rest, much needed rest, by the way, because they got 2 of their unicorns back, Nas Reed, Rudy Gobert. Boy, they were a sight for sore eyes, and they would need all the help they could get against one of the best teams in the East, by the way, the Cleveland Cavs, a team that, remember, they pushed this team to overtime. They beat the Wolves. I mean, that was only, 2 weeks ago? Just a handful of games ago or so. So you knew this was going to be a battle, and it was going to be a defensive battle. Heading in, check this out, the Cavs have held their opponents under 100 points 28 times this year. That's second most in the NBA, behind only your Minnesota Timberwolves. So Wolves, despite, I thought they did some really good things in the first half, Sam. They were down 4 going into halftime, in large part due to 9 of 26 in the paint early on. Can't have that, but they moved the ball well. They carried that over into the second half. It finally all clicked, it felt like, at the end of the third quarter. They took the lead. They never looked back. They win it 104-91. They moved to 48-22 on the year. So kick us off here, Sam. Before we get into, all the meat and potatoes, what were your just biggest takeaways, your kind of A topics from this one?
Yeah, the word I used to describe this one was energizing. Wolves fans had not seen their team win at Target Center since March 4th, 18 days ago. That's a while. When you get 6 guys, almost 7 in double figures, that's energizing because everybody feels like they contributed to that game. You got Jordan McLaughlin, who I'll have to recalculate his percentage, Luke. I think we talked on Wednesday. He was shooting 55% from 3 before tonight since February 1st. Yeah. That's not a small sample size either. For over a month and a half, that's got to be closer to 60 now after he goes 4 for 4. You've got Mike Conley thinking he's 6'10", blocking people. You've got Jaden McDaniels, who is 6'10", rising up to block people. A second consecutive encouraging game for J-Mac. The guys that bring energy brought energy. The J-Macs, the other J-Macs, the Nas Reeds. On Nas Reed beach towel night, the beach towels were out in full force. And Conley, bite. Bite was doing his thing. Clutch shots, blocks, assists, rebounds. It was the energy guys got the job done tonight. It was a well-rounded effort in what I thought felt like a little bit of a rock fight at times. It was a bit of a struggle. It was disjointed, a lot of whistles, a lot of stoppages. But ultimately, Luke, second half, the Wolves shot 58.5%.
Huge.
I mean, that's crazy efficiency on offense after halftime. So really encouraging win after 5 in a row at home against winning teams. They lost a lot of them by narrow margins. Felt good to get one against a winning team.
Explain just how nice it was to see Rudy Gobert and Nas Reed back on the court tonight. I mean, seriously, can their impact just not be overstated enough, or what? Like, what did you see from them tonight, I guess? And looking back now, are you almost even more impressed about how good the Wolves did play without, those 2 studs in the mix?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, no doubt about it. Offensively, they would have had a hard time going 24 of 41 in a half of basketball without Nas Reed. I mean, Nas Reed just brings such a professional approach, the way he scores inside and outside. And then Rudy Gobert being available on the lob or the post up, that's not a bad option to have either. Having those guys back in the mix was huge. Nas in particular. But you really feel Rudy, obviously, this is Captain Obvious, on the defensive end, like repelling Jarrett Allen when he gets the ball in the paint. He, against Rudy, is not that excited to turn up and shoot. Now, I know Allen had a big game in Cleveland. This is the Scott Foster gambling allegation game where Jarrett Allen had an uncharacteristically crazy good night. He got fouled a ton. This game wasn't officiated in the same way. Jarrett Allen went to the free throw line. Let's see how many times. I don't have it in front of me. Okay, I do. 5 of 6.
Okay.
Very modest. It was a breath of fresh air to get those guys back. I thought Rudy had a very solid Rudy game. I didn't think he looked any worse for the wear. 14 rebounds, 9 points. That's a good night for him. But defensively, he makes that impact and holds Cleveland to 91 points. That's a pretty good night.
Absolutely. The Wolves over the last couple weeks have rolled with a lot of different rotations, a lot of different lineups, with so many injuries, obviously Cat, but there's been others too, like Monte Morris, etc. Tonight, you had a look where it was 2 centers, Rudy and Nas Reed, and the 3 point guards, Mike Conley, Jordan McLaughlin, Monte Morris. I guess I don't know if you saw that lineup specifically. I'd love your 2 cents on that look, but just in general, with so many different looks and so many different lineups Coach Finch has deployed over the last 2-3 weeks, is there one common theme that kind of sticks out to you that you've noticed works really well with this group of guys?
Yeah, that is an interesting question because when they've been forced to go small, good things have kind of happened.
It was kind of a pleasant surprise, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I wonder if that's informed Finch about what he can do or about what his team is capable of. I noticed in the Denver game and the Utah game when they were down on their bigs, they defended their butts off on the perimeter when they were going small. It was like they all had an extra sense of urgency. And I think the ball moves a little better. I think it's a little more free flowing on the offensive end. Now you give up the post presence, which is kind of detrimental. It's an important part of the game, but the ball moves. There's a lot of cutting. There's a lot of back cutting. There's a lot of open court. I like the way it looks aesthetically. So the fact that they went super small in this one, it energized McLaughlin. It energized Conley. Like they seemed better for it after they had gone to that lineup. So for whatever reason, it had a positive impact tonight. It empowered those guys to assert themselves offensively. McLaughlin spotting up, hitting clutch threes, and really, Luke, they were asleep on the offensive end in the first half, if not for Jordan McLaughlin. I mean, I think they shot 39%, and he was 4 of 4 in the half. So non-JMac, they were 13 of 39, 33%. I mean, he really kept them in that game offensively. So the small lineup, it's not something we'll probably see in the playoffs, I wouldn't think. But to be able to bust that out and get decent success from it, that's pretty encouraging.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw this too, by the way. ESPN Zach Lowe, their lead NBA analyst, he came out with his weekly NBA kind of update report. The very first segment, first thing you see when you open it up, it's all about Ant, how he's evolved so much without KarlAnthony Towns on the floor. And, again, he kind of knows when to put the team on his back tonight. He's got to take over. He's got to do a lot of the dirty work. He's also, though, done such an impressive job, and I think this is the more important part, using that extra attention, the double, sometimes triple teams, and getting his teammates better opportunities, getting his teammates involved with good open looks. I guess, do you think this time without Cat is something we could look back on and say, you know what, that might have been one of the best things that could have happened, at least when it comes to Anthony Edwards's, progression and development into the guy we all hoped he could be?
Yeah. And a hat tip to Ryan Russillo for this one, who did a segment on Ant as well. And a lot of the nationals, I think, since the dunk have really picked up on what Ant's doing right now without Cat. I think that's been the biggest promotional vessel for Ant this year is that play that kind of galvanized NBA fans. To your point, he is still dictating offense. He is not, I think, increasing in selfishness. I think tonight he was really mature in that he recognized that maybe it wasn't his game to offensively thrive. He looked a little hobbled too in the second half. That might just be a bruise or something he picked up during the game. He didn't look totally 100%. He was still on the court, obviously. And he packed the box score, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, very willing passer in this game. It was almost like he knew innately that this team needed a boost, and that it had to come from other people. And a game like this builds everyone's confidence. Ant has confidence. He doesn't need a confidence boost. Everyone else kind of needed a confidence boost, I think, after you kind of got beaten down with a moral victory loss against the Nuggets. You hadn't beat a good team at home in a long time, and everybody delivered, in part because Ant was so unselfish in this game when he really has all the reason to be selfish with Cat out of the lineup. So I think that's actually showed a lot of maturity in his game. And when he decides to put the accelerator down, he's been unlike anybody on the planet. So him picking his spots, it's cool. It's cool. And when it happens in victory, it's very easy to say, yeah, Ant was in full control. I mean, I would hope that he'd put the pedal down if he needed to tonight instead of floating. But it felt like the team was in control. He was in control of that game in the second half the whole way.
All right, Dave's going to roll his eyes on this one, but just because we're on the topic, the team as a whole, I know it's a ridiculous topic, but is there an area you can spot or can sit here and say with confidence the Wolves are actually better at without Cat? As weird as it is to say, I get it. Obviously so much was made about, the offensive production that they'd missed the most, but here we are, Sam. I guess, it's been, 2 weeks? They've managed to play some phenomenal basketball without one of the top studs in the NBA.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and Dave, I don't think they're better without Cat just because of the trickle-down effect on their depth, I think is probably the biggest thing. It's nice to have Nas on the bench, to have that option. But I think that sometimes with Cat, depending on the mood he's in that day, I think the ball can get a little sticky on offense. I think the ball can stop with him. I think sometimes he just hunts shots, and, hey, a lot of them go in. A lot of them. So, and that's why he's Cat. Like, that's why he is such a potent weapon, is because he can hunt shots, and a lot of times it works. Sometimes the offense slows down with him. I think not all the time, sometimes. And I think with Nas, I think he's a little more fluid, and he's very willing to drive and kick out. He's a good passer. So you don't see a gigantic drop off just from Cat to Nas necessarily, but I mean, there's plenty of domino effects where you want Cat for sure, but I think the offensive flow can actually look pretty good sometimes when he's not in there. That's just one thought. I'm grasping at straws, Dave, to try to
yeah. And like our guy Jeff said, hey, 5-3. Granted, I mean, again, a lot of different contexts and variables in there. 5-3 though without Cat, I just feel like that's probably maybe even better than a lot of people would have thought. You have to go game by game though and dissect each one and what how each one kind of played out and what it looked like. But 5-3. End of the day, still pretty impressive. All right, plenty more deep dive, including the Wolves' defensive performance tonight. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to you by LinkedIn. When you start hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the job, right? Well, then LinkedIn Jobs is a no-brainer, because LinkedIn Jobs has the tools you need to help find the right professionals for your team faster, and it's for free. LinkedIn isn't the only job board. They've got the biggest network to choose from with more than 1 billion professionals. And what makes LinkedIn the best and only place to hire, LinkedIn is going to give you access to professionals you just can't find anywhere else. And they do all that while also making the process easy and intuitive. It's so easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate match within just 24 hours. So it's time to join the 2.5 million small businesses that are already using LinkedIn for hiring. Try it today. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. LinkedIn, terms and conditions apply. All right, I want your 2 cents on this because Jaden McDaniels, Jack and I, sometimes Tyler Metcalf comes on here. We end up talking about Jaden for at least 60 seconds or so. And you know, everybody knows the story by now. He's been a roller coaster this year. Always gives you that all-star, A-plus defensive effort every night. But the shooting, especially for a while there, it was pretty non-existent. Finally goes off versus Denver, though. 26 points. You're kind of sitting there hoping, all right, maybe that's the catalyst he finally needed to get going. Ends up scoring 15 more tonight, which is above his average. I guess I just want to know your assessment of him thus far this year. And why I ask is because it still feels like, for me, Sam, just personally, he's one of the biggest wild cards or maybe X factors that's going to ultimately make or break this team come playoff time. Yeah, we can spend all day. We can spend the full 30 minutes, Sam, on Ant, Rudy, Nas. But this guy's a starter for a reason. He's the guy, when he's cooking and helping out offensively, can make the biggest difference on the spectrum and give this team just a new gear that sometimes this year offensively they just haven't had. So it's just kind of a matter of which version of him you get on any given night, right? Is that fair to say, I guess? And what's your thoughts as far as like how important this guy really is to their long-term and you know, eventual playoff success?
Yeah. There's a lot of factors that go into why a team wins and loses over a stretch of games, but I also don't think it's a coincidence that in the month of November, and include the end of October in that too, you know, when the season started, the Wolves went 14-4, and J-Mac shot 56% in that stretch of the season. He started off exactly as you want J-Mac. He was efficient. He wasn't overdoing it. Wasn't trying to be like the second option. He was letting the game come to him, defending, of course, on the defensive end, but 56% shooting in November. Wolves go 14-4. As the season's gone on, we've talked about this, but new audience, so I'll say it again. Month by month, the shooting percentages have declined. And it got to the point where going into the Denver game, he was 40% in the month of March. Now, since Denver, 2 gems. And what's amazing, Luke, think about some of the shots he's hit the last 2 games, Denver and then tonight against the Cavs. He scored 41 points, and I think he's made 15 field goals. How many of those 15 field goals where has the quality or the degree of difficulty of the shot been really high? Like, he can hit some ridiculous fadeaway turnarounds on the baseline, contested threes. He's actually got a bag of offensive moves that he's got in that arsenal. Maybe that's why it's such a tease, because we see him do that. We see him hit turnaround J's with dudes in his face, and we wonder why he can't sustain that or hit open shots on the perimeter. Like, he has stretches where it's a struggle to watch him, you know, try to hit spot and shoot threes, and he might just be a player that needs to feel empowered. He needs to feel like he's needed on the offensive end, and maybe without having Cat for 8 games and Nas for a couple of games, maybe that's the kind of spark that he needed to feel like he is valuable and he can score off the dribble and not just wait in the corner for someone to pass him the ball. This is maybe the most encouraging development of the last couple of days. Jaden McDaniels finding himself again. And I thought his second half was as good as anybody's tonight. And I'm going to use a word that Jack Borman would be proud of. He had 5 stocks, steals and blocks for those uninitiated. That's a big night from J-Mac to go with the 15 points, 4 rebounds, and plus 15, best on the team.
There you go. Phenomenal breakdown. Love your insight. Love your 2 cents on that. And again, I do think it's an important topic because, again, we talk about, you know, the 2 or 3 big name guys all the time. I think low-key, he is going to be kind of one of those guys that ends up being the glue and kind of makes or breaks this team in the long run come playoff time. Let's stick with the defensive topic here. Wolves coming into this one had 5 or more blocks in 13 straight games. Easily the longest streak in the NBA. Also the longest streak, by the way, in franchise history. Tonight, they had 5 more. Keep the streak alive. 2 from who we were just talking about, Jaden McDaniels, 2 from Rudy Gobert. Nice to have him back. And the 5th from Mike Conley, as you mentioned at the top of the show, of all people, of course. When you hear a stat like that, what's the first characteristic you think of when you try to describe the type of defensive prowess they can bring to the table? Keep it in mind, by the way, they've done a chunk of this now, these 14 games with 5 or more blocks, without their 3 best big men. I mean, yeah, okay, Nas Reed missed 2-3 games. Rudy Gobert missed, only 3-4 games, something like that. But I think that may be maybe the most impressive part of this streak, to be honest.
Yeah, lengthy. It's a lengthy team.
Yeah.
McDaniels as like an 18-foot wingspan. He's been in there the whole time. Edwards has a pogo stick that he lives on. He can get up. Kyle Anderson, sneakily, didn't have one tonight. Kyle Anderson just has that flat-footed reach. Like you get the feeling that Anderson could just stand under the basket and just like grab the rim with his feet flat on the ground, because he just has that sneaky wingspan. I don't know how Nikhil is a lengthy, gangly defender. They're just all so lengthy. And you know what I love about this defense too, Luke? They close out so hard. Like they are running at you. You can reverse the ball as many times as you want. They are going to scramble their butts off, and they are going to get to the shooter, and they're going to challenge the shooter. And if they can funnel the shooter, because they know if they funnel that shooter off the 3-point line and send him to the middle, guess who's waiting? It's Rudy Gobert. And that's why this defense is so successful, because Rudy just makes it right. And he vacuums in a lot of those blocks because guys intentionally funnel the offensive player his way, and then he gets that stuff out of there. So that's a cool stat. 14 in a row, 5 or more blocks, and I'm glad that Connolly got in the act tonight. That was awesome against George Niang.
Hey, they needed it. They needed every single one, including Mike's, which was absolutely hilarious to see. All right, stick around. We're going to preview this Warriors game coming up this Sunday night. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to you by Stitch Fix. All right, guys, one of the best cliches that always resonates with me the most is if you look good, you feel good. And I always feel my best when I use Stitch Fix. With Stitch Fix, you get your own personal stylist who understands your style, your size, most importantly, your budget. And the best part is they do all the shopping for you. That makes it, without a doubt, the easiest way to update your wardrobe closet this upcoming spring season. Personally, I'm kind of into that laid back, relaxed, casual look. I like the hoodies, the quarter zip ups, maybe a golf polo or two. So my personal stylist helped me find some new trendy clothes that fit my look and feel perfectly, and help me update my closet without those long, excruciating, stressful trips to the mall. All you got to do, tell your stylist your size, style, and budget, and they take care of the rest. And my favorite part, no subscription required. You order a new box how you want it, when you want it, and if you don't like it, no problem. Send it back on the house. Free shipping, free returns, free exchanges. It's style that makes you feel as good as you look. Go get started today at stitchfix.com/lockedon. That's stitchfix.com/lockedon. Hey, I just saw this today. I wanted to make sure we touched on it super quick. The G League Ignite will be no more after this year. So that means guys like Daishen Nix, Leonard Miller, they'll be done as far as that league goes anyways. I think their final game is, next week already. A lot of that, by the way, I think had to do with the impact the NIL had on college basketball and whatnot. But just curious, I guess you're just 30 seconds, knee-jerk reaction when you hear something like that, and what it could mean now for Leonard Miller and Daishen Nix now moving forward. Where do they fit into the kind of long-term plans now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would reserve a lot of that analysis to the Ben Beacons
for sure,
and the Jack Bormans. But let me say this. This is via Ben Beacon. Ben Beacon went to a G League game earlier this year, and he reported back to me about what it was like. And he said it was the stalest, weirdest atmosphere. Like they could barely fill like a quarter of a lower bowl in a stadium. Nobody cares. There's no history. It's like live golf. Like what are we doing here? What is I know it's developmental in nature. You're trying to like give players the option to surpass college. Now they can make money in college. So it doesn't serve that purpose anymore. In terms of like the ramifications on the two-way guys, I don't know. But I understand why the product hasn't worked out. Because I just don't think it has there's just no community tie to that team. Like, I get it. I don't think it was a really good idea.
I always love getting a fresh face on here, a fresh perspective, a new voice. I'm just curious, your 2 cents, your take, anything going on that's kind of caught your eye in the Western Conference right now? Could be for good, could be for bad, just anything that surprised you as of late about a team, a specific player even, or even where the Wolves fit into the whole equation right now with just, what do we got? 3 weeks to go.
Yeah, 12 games. You got 6 games against winning teams, 6 games against losing teams, Luke. I mean, you don't have that many challenges left. You've got the Warriors coming up on Sunday. And let me segue your question into this matchup because I think it's interesting and plays into the Warriors' mindset right now. The Warriors are suddenly being chased pretty fervently by the 11th place Houston Rockets, who, Luke, have won 7 in a row.
Look at Jeff's all
9-1 in their last 10. The Warriors have to play with desperation. They're 2.5 up. They're fading fast. Houston is hot on their tail and playing great. So the Warriors are no longer part of that locked in play-in mix. They may actually have to really try down the stretch here. And I think that actually makes it a harder game for Minnesota because they're going to be facing a hungry team. There's a bunch of bad blood from earlier in the season, as you remember, with the headlock and the ejections. Draymond Green, of course, will be involved in this game, and the Warriors got Curry back recently. The big X factor is Andrew Wiggins. Which Andrew Wiggins is going to show up? As we know, Wiggins shows up against former teams or his hometown teams. Like, he decides to show up when the stage is big occasionally. He's been floating through the past couple weeks for the Warriors. Now, he did have a good performance against the Grizzlies last time out where he was very good, but their fan base has been eating him alive because they've needed him to be at his best. He hasn't been. So I'm watching Wiggins against the Wolves on Sunday super closely, but also this Warriors team has shifted a bit. They've gone younger. They've, given the rookie Podziemski more minutes. Kuminga is suddenly super integral in what they're doing. So that Warriors game, man, I mean, I think that's going to be packed. First of all, there's going to be a ton of storylines with the bad blood from earlier in the year. The Warriors need the game. The Wolves are trying to stay, within sight of the Thunder. That's going to be a big time matchup.
Okay, 2 fun quickies to close here. First, fan question, Ryan Coggins, highest ceiling Minnesota athlete, Ant, JJ Carrill, or Royce. And then 2, we got to talk some March Madness bracket here. Give us Sam Ekstrom's March Madness bracket update. How's your Final Four? Who you got winning it all? What's your favorite moment or game thus far through just 2 days as we record this at 9:47 p.m. Central Standard Time, Friday, March 22nd. How's it all looking and shaking out for you?
All right, let's talk about Ryan's first, and I want your answer too, Spinman.
Yep.
No cop outs on this. So let me talk through the 4 because it's a good 4.
It's a great 4.
JJ, like, what ceiling? Like, JJ is the ceiling. Right. JJ is the bar. So I don't know if he has much left to rise. Like Royce, certainly Royce Lewis has the most left on the bone because his career is just getting started. So he has the most room to become a star. Carrill, I think we might be experiencing a little bit of a plateau with him. We've had the most thrilling years. Now, can he elevate from here? I think is still in question. I think Ant is the most tantalizing, because Ant is top 10, top 15 in the league, I think. But he can be probably top 3. Maybe even top 1. I think that potential is in him. So I'm going to say Ant because of what he could still accomplish.
Yeah, for me, it's JJ or Ant. And I think about, okay, who's the best at that position all time? Okay, let's go football for example. Okay, Vikings, JJ, football, Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, Chris Carter, those types of guys, right? Terrell Owens. Can JJ reach that type of tier? Can he be discussed when it's all said and done with those guys? Absolutely. He's already on that pace. Basketball, Anthony Edwards. Okay. Can he be in the same realm, the same conversation someday as the Dwayne Wades, the Allen Iversons, the, Clyde Drexlers, Reggie Millers, okay, Kobe and MJ? It's just tough to even throw them out there because so much needs to be done and accomplished before you can even sniff what they've done with the championship specifically. But my point is, yes, he can absolutely be mentioned with the Reggie Millers and Dwayne Wades, Allen Iversons when it's all said and done. So those are my two. And that's the way I think about that. It's a great question, by the way. But that question, that's kind of my first mindset. Now, March Madness bracket, favorite game, favorite moment, and how's that bracket looking?
I am almost having a great day. I had a survivor pool, which not a traditional bracket where you had to pick, winners progressively and try to stay alive. And Auburn smoked me today, just ripped my soul out. Other than that, it's been a pretty good couple days. I had Oakland over Kentucky. I loved watching the end of that game. There have been some stellar finishes today. I had Colorado in a thriller against Florida, 102-100, buzzer beater falling for Colorado after Florida had tied it with a wild rally. I love March Madness, man. And hey, can we get in the comments if people are fired up about the Badgers losing right now to James Madison? Comment if you're pumped and want Wisconsin to go down 33-20 at halftime.
Unbelievable, man.
How about you? How's yours looking?
So far, so good. I did a cop-out, man. I ended up doing 2 brackets. Luckily, I took Kentucky out of my Final Four at the last second, so that's good. Went chalk and won with UConn. They look phenomenal, as most 1 seeds do in the first round against the 16 seed. And then I got Arizona in the other bracket. So far, so good. Started out really hot. I actually went 6 for 6 those first 6 games, but things have kind of reverted back to the mean a little bit. I think, though, the golden rule is this first weekend, all you want to do is survive. You just want to make sure your Final Four teams all survive this first opening weekend, these first 2 games that get down to that 32-16 range, somewhere in there. But a lot of fun, man. This is one of, as I get older and older, my favorite times of year in the sports world, between March Madness, NFL draft. I'm a huge NFL draft nerd. And then you got the Masters right around the corner as well. Those 3 events, man, bang, 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 are just unbelievable for my money.
This truly is a sports fan's dream. We got Twins postcast coming up, baseball season around the corner in 6 days.
6 days,
6 days, Lou. That's wild.
You and I could talk all night. We got to get out of here. Well done tonight, though. That was a lot of fun. Always love to have the elite NBA mind of Sam Ekstrom on here. Wolves do bounce back strong after, again, that tough loss versus the defending champs, the Nuggets, on Tuesday. They get some revenge on the Cleveland Cavs tonight, 104-91, and notch their 48th win of the season. Wolves take off tomorrow, and then they take on Steph and the Warriors this Sunday at home. Tip off for that one, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. As always, huge shout out to everyone that joined us in the stream. You guys are the absolute best. Rest assured, we'll be back each and every game, same time, same place, right here to break it all down. Quick reminder, got to go check out all of Sam's work on Twitter, @Sam Ekstrom, and make sure you check him out and the entire crew on the Minnesota Basketball Party. That's each and every Wednesday. He's hosting. Gophers legend Ron Johnson, Carol Evans, Reggie Wilson, our other guy, Jack Borman. Give us a quick 10-second tease in case they missed it. What was the hot topic of discussion on Wednesday's episode?
Yeah, that was me overreacting to the Denver loss and everyone else calming me down. So if you want bad takes from me, go watch Wednesday's show.
Sounds about right. Plus, don't forget Ben Beacon, always ripping it up over on the Locked On Wolves podcast. That's each and every day as well. All right, that'll do it for us tonight. He's Sam Ekstrom. I'm Luke Inman on Twitter, @Luke_Spinman. Until next time, signing out.